Hey, it's Magnus here. You know, it's funny, in the last day or two, I feel very liberated in making these videos because I've decided just to make what I want and do what I want, no apologies, no nothing. Today, I'm talking about books. I have 10 books here. There's no reason for choosing 10, it just so happens like I went to my bookshelf, picked the best books off it that I've read, most of the books on there I haven't read yet, picked the best ones, and it just so happens, you know, I capped out at 10, there was no more that I could find. So, 10 books. I'm gonna just show each of them and tell you why I found it good. I won't do the author or the content of the book justice in any way, and I'll in fact just give you a quick thing and just encourage you to take a look at it. So the first book, The Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli. So this book has something like 99 or 100 sort of psychological things you have to watch out for, and hacks and that kind of thing. That sounds kind of cheap the way I say it, but very, very good. Absolute eye-opening, loads of sort of anecdotes and research things, and just amazing. Like I think I read it in a day or something. I just couldn't put it down. It's a great little thing you can sort of dip into. Next book is How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big by Scott Adams. Scott Adams is the author of the Dilbert cartoon, the sort of fairly famous cartoon you get in the various newspapers around the world. But he's also a horribly smart guy, and this book is kind of a story of his life and his approach, and yeah, not doing it justice, but definitely one of the best books I've read. Again, I just plowed through it, read it in like a couple of sittings, something like that. The next book is Lying by Sam Harris. Now this book is the book that 100% convinced me that there really is never ever any situation in which you should lie. Like, there's only benefits to come from telling the truth all the time. Like, it's a short book, but Sam Harris makes like a clear case, just clear cut. In fact, so clear cut was it, and convinced by it, that I think around 3 or 4 months ago I actually did a YouTube video just on this book alone, or part of it, saying that I am never lying again. The funny thing is I did a week of it expecting it to be a hell of a week, because I'm going to have to catch myself lying here and there, little white lies, and turns out I didn't really lie anyway, so it's not a big hurdle. But whenever now I get into a situation where I could lie, I could tell a little white lie, or I could kind of gloss over something, I make a point never to lie. And you know, sometimes it's like not that easy, you kind of like have to get a bit uncomfortable, but read that. Right, this book is called What I Learned Losing $1 Million by Jim Paul and Brendan Moynihan. Now this book is definitely like the least well known probably of the whole bunch. It was basically a guy who, I think he was kind of like a stockbroker or something, and then he kind of became a trader, and he went through the sort of typical path of a new trader of getting overconfident, and he got lucky and kind of overconfident, and he held on to a big position in the stock market, and he went through this crazy kind of denial and all that stuff, and this big roller coaster, and he takes you on the whole ride, and you're kind of like there with him. And you know, he went from like nothing to sort of making a lot of money in his sort of trading account, and then just right back down to nothing, and I think even past nothing. He, you know, like literally did lose $1 million or more, I can't quite remember. But fascinating insight into psychology and how you can kid yourself on. I will almost certainly be reading that one again. This one, The Psychedelic Explorer's Guide by James Fadiman, PhD. This is the sort of most well-known top book kind of recommended on taking kind of psychedelics like LSD and that kind of thing. Now, I've not taken LSD or any psychedelic at all yet, but I definitely plan to. This is not the book you think it is, and it's phenomenal. It goes into research, it goes into how it was criminalized, and what a kind of like how society has really missed out on it, because it's psychedelics, as it turns out, is phenomenal for sort of therapy and improving your life, and I'm not doing it justice, but definitely one of the most fascinating books I've read. It convinced me that taking like psychedelics is something I need to do at some point in my life, and in fact it wasn't just this book, it was mainly Sam Harris, who, if you remember, was the author of Lying. He's a neuroscientist into meditation and all that, an amazing guy, and that was sort of the initial person who sort of convinced me that LSD is something you really need to try in your life, and so this was a book I kind of wanted to learn more about at first. Next up is How to Make Money, the 88 Steps to Get Rich and Find Success by Felix Dennis. Now this sounds like a real sort of tacky titled kind of book, like a sort of how to make money. I mean, it's literally called How to Make Money, but it has got such solid advice in there, it's unbelievable. Like, I've actually used some of it already, and I bought this book and read it, I think, when I was in Singapore in April earlier this year, and just phenomenal. The reason it's worth paying attention to it is because Felix Dennis is a British sort of guy that owns a bunch of magazines and stuff, sort of built his business from nothing, and I think he's worth something like £600 million, which is like close to $1 billion, something like that. Like, that's the size of his company. So you can't ignore it right away because of the title, because of the guy who wrote it. That's my position on that. Very, very good. One of the best business books I've read for sure. Next up is Free Will by Sam Harris. That's 2 books by Sam Harris, another fairly short book. This book, in combination with Sam Harris's sort of podcast and some articles he's written, and a few other things by other people on free will, pretty much convinced me there is no such thing as free will. I won't get into that here, into that discussion. It's something that's quite protracted, and when you discuss it with people, it's so out with most people's knowledge, including mine when I first started thinking about it, out of interest, around 4 or 5 months ago, when I first sort of discovered that there's really no free will. I kind of lost myself for 2, 3, 4 weeks. I couldn't I lost a little bit of a grasp on life. I was like, there's no free will, and I was wrestling with it. I was thinking of all these examples of there must be free will, and yeah, there really isn't. I'll leave it at that. If you want to find out more, Free Will by Sam Harris. Next up is The Checklist Manifesto, How to Get Things Right. It's by Atul Gawande. Absolutely, unbelievably fascinating book. This guy, I think, sort of was a doctor or surgeon, can't quite remember, and there's so many sort of mistakes in procedures and operations and things in hospitals. This guy wanted to improve the results of sort of hospitals and things, because so many operations and procedures go wrong, people recovering, people getting sick in hospital. He sort of looked at the airline industry, which, the amount of planes that crash is so small compared to the amount of flights around the world every year. And so, he went on this sort of big journey of and tested checklists and things like that in hospitals, and the results were mind-blowing. Like things like the percentage of patients that got infections after surgery, like it wasn't just reduced marginally, it reduced monster amounts, just unreal. I got things out of this book that I could use directly in my business, making titanium stuff. It was that good. Again, not doing it justice, but definitely check it out. The Checklist Manifesto. Next book is Meditations on Violence by Sergeant Rory Miller. The subtitle is A Comparison of Martial Arts Training and Real-World Violence. This may sound a bit random, and it kind of is, but it's actually a very real, very practical... It basically sort of tells you like how the world is, like if you've never encountered violence in your life, which I've been lucky so far in my life. I really can't say I have, so I've been very, very lucky. Certainly after this book, I feel like I've lucked out, but you know, either you will or someone in your life will at some point, and it just tells you what it's like. This guy was like a prison officer for 10 or 20 years and a real top martial arts guy, and so he's seen so much, and one of the most fascinating books I've ever read for sure. This book is Tiny Beautiful Things: Advice on Love and Life from Dear Sugar by Cheryl Strayed. Now I think Dear Sugar is like a blog or a website or a magazine or something, you know, one of those sort of agony aunt type columns. Now, really can't remember how I heard about this book, but could not put it down. I think I read the whole lot of it in a day or 2 days, like 2 sittings or something. It was just, I just consumed it. It was like probably way more than any of these books. There was just something about it. It was very real. I honestly can't remember how it was written. Like, I think it was excerpts from a blog or the website or something that she wrote for, and so it was basically like someone would ask a question and this was her answer, and it was very personal, very just amazing. One of those books where so glad I read it. Just opens your eyes to other people's lives and the struggles they have, and yeah. Right, that is me done for the day. I will of course leave you with a quote. This quote was highlighted to me by someone in the comments. Can't remember the name, unfortunately. My apologies for that. It's by Eleanor Roosevelt, and she said, "Happiness is not a goal. It's a byproduct of a life well lived."